On this episode of Third Wheel at Night, me and Caleb dive deep into the 13 reasons why for dating. Stay tuned.
Welcome to another episode of the Third Wheel Podcast at night.
My name's Darci.
All right. When we first started this show, we wanted to talk about bad advice, dating, marriage, relationships, all the good things, all the cringe things, I'd say. What do you think, Darci? Have you cringed a lot while the making of this series? Has it stressed you out?
They had some valid points. I like the scarf thing.
Ah, yes. The chef's hat image you also put in my head was pretty cool. So, yes. But today, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to go back to our roots. You see, I feel like, Darci, as we've gone on and as we've done this show and, have gotten more popular and increased our, popularity, I just feel like we've kind of lost sight of where we came from. I don't know how you feel about that. I feel like we've sold out, so to speak, and it's time to return back to our roots.
You're so dumb.
Look, I'm trying to be honest with our audience here. Okay, I just, sometimes commercialism just sets in, and we just sell out, and I'm trying to get us back to where we were. So, desperation. That's what I would like to talk about today. Relationships. I found this article that says 13 things you do that made you a woman repeller. Are you? Question mark. Some behaviors in men can inadvertently deter women. It's wise to steer clear of these actions if you want to attract women. A user asked the forum, what is a woman repeller? That's a good question.
I imagine like a helicopter propeller.
Exactly. Exactly.
You thought the same thing.
Right? That'd be the first thing I would say would have been like, sir, we're not helicopters.
That's funny.
Here are the top responses. So now, how do you feel about that, Darci? Do you have any experience? What is there a personal experience with you, which I know the answer already, but what it could be a red flag that would instantly turn you off from somebody. Please do tell. I'm curious.
Instantly?
Instantly.
The second that green text bubble pops up that they got a stupid Android. No.
You hear that, gentlemen? You go out and spend you $1,500 on a broken phone. Have you seen the new iPhones? Are they actually breaking as quickly as everyone says?
I have no clue. I mean, ours is pretty new.
There's a guy, he does like an endurance test. He doesn't like, smash them and be like, oh, they suck. But he just does like a little, like puts a little pressure on the back and the phone just snapped in half. Like immediately. Like he just went like this. He took his phone and just like, he just did like this little thing and then just immediately destroyed.
I don't believe that.
Because they marketed the new ones as like, oh, they don't need a case. They're so durable. And then.
The 14s?
Is it 14 or 15 now?
Thought that Faith had gotten the newest one. It was a 14. Me and Paul have a 13.
Okay, well, never mind. I don't know. I saw some stuff on it, so
I have no clue.
I'm going to hit this button.
I also don't do that to my phone, so
that's fair. Well, I don't know. All the tech guys want to do like a quick like test to make sure they're durable. So I'm going to hit this button real quick just to be safe. In case one of us slips one out, I can just cut that and then add it to over the said word. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah, exactly. Just like that. Thanks a lot. You just made some more work for me today. Or next week. All right. 13 things you do that made you a woman.
Oh, yeah, but I was going to answer that legitimately. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Instant turn off. I don't know. There's so many things that could be an instant turn off. Overly cocky.
Overly cocky.
Yeah.
Now, there's a chance, audience, she'll say something that's on the list, but I'm just going off the top of her head right now trying to gauge what her first reaction is. So, wait. I recall a story, not to dig up your past here, but right before you met Paul, I thought there was a guy at the place you were working at who was overly cocky, and you rolled your eyes because it was working subtly.
Are you talking about the married guy?
I don't think he was married, but maybe he was. I don't know. See, you always like to add that detail later whenever you're telling me a funny story. So, I don't know. I feel like overly cocky people tend to pull some kind of girl. Maybe not the one they're hitting on in the moment, but I don't know. What do you think?
There's just some dude, like if you're just like a douchebag about it, is that a cuss word? Does that need a beeper?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Douchebag. If you're a douche. I like saying that.
If you're a bag of douches.
Oh.
Then it's just like, I don't know, like it's a turn off.
What's a weird thing they can do to be super like, ooh, no thanks? Is there something weird that gets you right out the gate?
I guess like finishing, like asking me a question and trying to finish my sentence for you.
Ooh.
Like, are you free tonight? Yeah, you are.
Okay, that's annoying. I'm
Yeah.
annoyed for you. I thought you were gonna say like they just interrupt as you're speaking.
Interrupting
to finish a
is
sentence.
annoying, yeah, but
Not an instant repeller.
not necessarily.
Not an instant propeller.
Not like an instant helicoptering.
Yeah.
Not like an
Not the
instant like.
All right. Number one.
That
Now,
was so stupid.
as we lift,
That was one of our worst jokes, I think.
we got
You're gonna lose like 5 subscribers.
We have 54 minutes to kill. In fact, as you recall, the first minute you took up with not knowing how to do the intro correctly.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks. All right, as we list these off, Darcy, if you can empathize with any of these, okay, just let it out. I'm also going to highlight which ones I used to struggle with before I became a babe magnet and not propeller. Now I don't struggle at all with these, and I can just like, boom, not single anymore.
Okay, anyways.
I'm the one reading the list. What do you mean, anyways?
Let's just go by like one by one. Don't like rush through the list or
No,
anything.
I got it. Because they all come with a little description here.
I thought you were going to be like those Olive Garden people that are like, say when, and you're just like shooting through the list. I'm like, oh, when?
Darcy, I know you're new to this whole podcasting thing, but I've been podcasting now for almost a whole year, and I know how to pace. Okay. In fact, the only times we've gone over are the times I have to tell you to quit talking so we can end it in an hour. Okay. Number 1, desperation. What's an example in your personal experience, or maybe a friend, because you got friends who also have weird people try to ask them out. But what to you would turn you off about desperation, whether from personal experience or secondhand or something off the top of your head?
Just like begging.
Begging.
Yeah, like if you turn them down and it like turns into like a sob, like, please, please. They're like grabbing you by their collar, please.
I don't believe you. I know it's an exaggeration, but
Right.
like, I don't know. Like, I'm sure people cry. That is pretty desperate. But like, can you be desperate in a relationship? Or are you just talking leading up to asking them out?
Like leading up.
Okay.
If it's like during it, I don't know. It depends on the desperation you're talking about. Like, are you just like clingy? Are you needy? Are you like what have you? And it's hard for me because now I'm like a big old marshmallow with Paul. And so like if he's being clingy or needy, like I don't mind it at all. In fact, sometimes I like it. You know?
I would argue you're the desperate one sometimes. Oh, don't give me that look. Don't give me that look. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Otherwise, you wouldn't be so offended. All right? Anyway.
But like in the beginning of us dating, like there was like one time where we had seen each other like a week in a row and we were going to have like a day break in the middle. He was like, oh, I'm gonna miss you. I was like, oh, shut up. Obviously now I'm not like that. And I'm like, he goes to the bathroom. I'm like, I'm gonna miss you. Can I go with?
At least you put me on mute when you do that.
But it's hard because there's a lot of times where I was like very unemotional, and so it was very easy to like turn me off to things. Like I was very picky, and I was just like, ugh. As far as like dating, flirting, like I'd flirt with anybody. I don't know. I loved flirting. It was fun for me. But like actually being serious with someone was super difficult.
I'm trying to think of a good example of desperation, and I only hear stories of people like begging. And I know you're exaggerating earlier with
Right.
the please, but like I don't know, like that. I feel like I've heard of people doing that. I just haven't actually seen it, and I don't know many friends that have had like someone desperately try to ask them out.
The only times I've experienced like a lot of desperation was like when I was breaking up with people, not necessarily in the beginning. So that's kind of hard for me to gauge when people were initially trying to start something. Now, when I was trying to break things off or they're asking about date number 2, like then it could get a little rocky and they'd start getting a little desperate about things. But as far as like an instant, like right off the bat thing, I don't have too many experiences like that, I don't think.
I take it back. I think I remember now. I was a desperate person at some point. Okay, let's high school, 18 years old.
Oh, I know what story you're about to tell.
That's good. All right. Well, if not, though, maybe you're learning something new about me today.
The woman that turned you down for prom.
Yeah. Okay, cool. You remember that. That was, spoiler alert. I got shot down at prom. I told this girl I liked her, and I was like, hey, I like you. And then I could tell by the look of disappointment in her face that she didn't feel the same way. Right. So after that, I made it my mission to show her how great of a guy I was. That way she'd change her mind, which is weird because we were both going to go to different colleges and whatnot. I don't know. I was just immature. It was the first girl I ever like sat down and told her I liked her. So I guess it just was weird. I got her a cool picture frame, and then I got a picture of all of us, like a bunch of us seniors, close friends. I got us all to sign the back. And then I also made weird origami. So like make origami hearts and stuff, and I put it in the bag, and I wrote her a nice card, right? And in the card, I got all the teachers, because she was valedictorian, got all the teachers and staff to sign it. Like, I really went all out on that one gift. And, it was just stuff like that, just being desperate. Like, I guess I do relate to that, actually, quite a bit.
See, if she was intrigued by you asking, I'd say that's really sweet. Yeah. But because she was no. So, like, obviously not interested.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's what made it desperate.
Yeah.
It was, like, the constant, like... And I never asked her out again, so I don't know what I was building up to. You know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So, like, if I was doing all those things, thinking, like, okay, now I ask her out again, she'll for sure say yes. And I never asked her out again. It was weird. I was a really different person back then. And I'd only been in school for 4 years because I was homeschooled up until 9th grade, so... I don't know. Maybe there's some justification for being a little bit desperate. But yeah, that's my desperation story. I've been desperate before.
Yeah, I guess if I don't know. It depends why I turn somebody down. Like, if they are just being, like, persistent and, like, they just know that they want to take me on a date, it's one thing. But if they can tell I'm very much like, no, I don't want to, then it just turns into this whole thing. And I'm like, oh my God, I already told you no. Like, what else do I have to say? Do I have to spit on your shoes? Right. Or is that going to be like, is that going to encourage you? Like, what do I have to do at this point?
Yeah. And then even talking about it, this is another discussion that we probably can't get into today, but I wanted to ask you at some point on this show, like, when is a good no a no? And when is a no, like, I want you to chase me a bit and then ask me again later? Because that works for some people. But, not this episode, okay.
Oh, okay. You'll just let me ponder it for the next 2 months?
Yes. And then, when we come back and shoot more.
Yeah.
All right. Next one, bad hygiene. I feel like that's a given. But what's bad hygiene? Some people wash their hair every couple days, women especially. Sometimes once a week, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a woman. But don't brush your teeth. No deodorant. Doesn't shower, period. What's bad hygiene for you, Darci?
If I can smell you apart from if we're, like, really close. Like, if I'm hugging you and I can smell a little bit of something, I'm like, okay, maybe, like, his deodorant wore off. Maybe he forgot to brush his teeth this morning. Maybe he ate some foul lunch, I don't know. There could be, like, excuses for it. It depends if it's a consistent odor. It depends how bad it is. It depends, like, is this someone that's struggling mentally, that's trying to do better about it? Is this someone that's just unaware of it because nobody told them?
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Don't interrupt me like that again.
But hold on. Unaware. But that's the kicker, isn't it? Like, do you mean unaware just in that moment? Or, like, they smell awful and they legit just don't know?
If they legit just don't know and they're unaware, like, that's one thing and you can bring it up. But if they're aware of it and just don't care.
Yeah.
That's, no.
I heard a story in college of, like, a guy that's just, like, legit never showered. And then, like, the guys were messing with some kitchen utensils and dude's messing with Tabasco and he, like, squirted some out and it hit this dude's, like, hair. Right. And then, they said bye or whatever, laughed it off. And then it came back a week later. They hadn't seen him. And he still had the crusty, like, Tabasco in his hair. Like, ooh, that's pretty gross. Like, never showering. Like, oh my gosh. Like, ugh. But yeah, I don't know. You always want to appreciate a good, at least on the guy's end, you want to appreciate a good smelling woman. That's a big thing.
It's definitely turn on to smell nice. Yeah. Like, that's like the first thing you notice is somebody's smell.
Yeah. Can you distinguish between a long-term bad odor and something like, okay, he ate something foul for lunch, You know what I'm saying? Can you distinguish between, like, okay, this dude just stinks, like, has a bad, like, odor, not just,
it depends when you meet them, because if it's a coworker, you'll know if they're consistently, having bad hygiene. If it's someone from a bar, I feel like I can generally tell if this person just honestly doesn't take care of themselves or if they're having a one-off. It's definitely a turn off. Yeah. You know, I won't say like it's easy to overlook, but I don't think it's necessarily a hardcore like, ooh, I'm never talking to this dude again, depending on like the odor.
You know, that one could actually be more like superficial in a sense, where it's like it's almost like ties into someone's looks.
Right.
Not quite though, because like I mean, if they smell really bad, yeah, I mean, I could never embrace them.
Right.
Hold them longingly. Maybe like, from I can gaze from afar, but
if it smelled like they pooed themselves 5 minutes ago, chances are I'm not going to try to talk to them again. Fair. But you know, if it's just like we're at a restaurant or at a bar and let's say they're eating some wings and they came over and their breath didn't smell good. Like I don't really expect their breath to smell good whenever they have garlic parmesan wings and whatever to drink.
I really feel like though my nose can distinguish between like, okay, their breath smells bad because of something they ate, or like this dude just his body gives off a foul odor.
Right.
I feel like I can tell the difference. Yeah. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I feel like you can most of the time.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, I don't know if this is someone you genuinely like and that's something that can be fixed. This isn't like an issue where it's like they have a, I don't know, third nostril.
Unlike the next
Actually,
issue.
I guess that could kind of be fixed too, honestly.
How?
Surgery.
You know what though? Let me be honest with you. So I used to have like a ton of extra moles on my head and I had them removed. So yes, everything is fixable. Okay, you can get some work done. Okay. What else have I gotten done? I think that's it. Everything else I've had to do naturally. I have to lose weight myself here. Yeah, but it's all fixable. All the superficial stuff you can work on is what your point was. And
yeah.
I agree. All right. Unlike the next issue, which is a lot more personality oriented. You see, not all the things on this list have to do with superficial things like, bad breath or smelly feet. Take some zinc tablets. Go give your chompers a brush. But the next one is feeling sorry for yourself. Okay. Now, this is a big one for me because I did this from 18 years old to about 23. And oddly enough, after I got over this, I got my first girlfriend. So I think one of the things was holding me back was the feeling sorry for yourself aspect. How do you encounter this a lot before, Paul, in your dating life?
I might need a decent example.
Okay. So for me, I always had it in my head, like, I'm not going to pull a woman. Woe is me. I'm unattractive to women. I would say these things out loud to other guys. Maybe a woman was there, maybe not. But I was always just pity, 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 pity. I'm going to be alone forever. Oh, man, I have a girlfriend. I'm going to be alone. No one likes me. Just pity party.
Definitely a very big turnoff. If I were to overhear that, I definitely wouldn't want to pursue that person. I'm not trying to get like a negative Nancy, and especially because it's like if you're pitying yourself for being single, like to me, that's just a red flag of like, okay, so you're not taking accountability for the things that you need to change in yourself. And if anything happens between us, then it's going to be a woe is me every argument.
That's true. No kidding. Give me a good example of that. Every argument, woe is me.
Whenever I dated this one guy, the one that threatened some things.
Gotcha. And you said, go do some things. Shout out to whatever episode that was.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
It was on the main channel.
Yeah.
I think it was like episode 19 or something.
Something like that.
Something.
There's so many numbers now.
Yeah.
Continue.
But anyways, so every time we got in like a little bit of an argument, like he'd just get this huge pouty face and he'd be all like sad and, just point out why he acted that way and not sit there and be like, I take accountability for this, but just try to explain all of his actions away without an apology or without owning up to what he actually did. But to just like excuse his behavior and expect me to be like, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Even if I wasn't in the wrong.
The group I had friends with in college that I first whipped out my pity party routine on them. For the first couple of times, they were trying to comfort me and make me feel better. And some of them were girls. Like, they were trying to, oh, no, it's not true. They did the grandma, you're so handsome. They did all the, they're trying to say all the right things, trying to make me feel better, but the constant me saying like, no, you're wrong. I'm going to, no one likes me. I'm unattractive. I'm fat. The constant just keep saying that in lieu of what they're trying to actually tell me. Eventually it got to the point where they just started joking like, look, it's forever alone boy. I was like, but I had it coming because that's what I kept going around saying to everybody,
right.
And it also hindered my confidence. So whenever I'd see a girl, I would just start thinking, I'd pull out that card in my own head like, oh, she's not even interested. Look at how she didn't, she won't even look at you. This is the stuff I'm telling myself. She's not laughing at anything you said. She doesn't want to talk to you. And, you actually start believing it. And then you start telling yourself that. And then, like, you just kind of give up as you're having the conversation with them, Mm. And whoever I'm talking to, she's trying to engage me. She's trying to actually have a good conversation with me. We've had talks about that where some girls that are assuming you're into them just when you're, like, say, hey, like, I have a boyfriend.
Yeah.
Like, some of these girls I'm talking to, just for fun, just as friends, they were just trying to genuinely talk. They weren't trying to be weird about it like some girls are. And then, I just like in my own head, I defeated myself and was like, that just pity party. Eventually I started kind of buying into it myself. One time, I think in my late 22 or early 23 years old, I started yelling at my buddy. I was like, I see how y'all look at me. Y'all just, whenever they were just like laughing, not even at me. They weren't even looking at me. I just see them laughing at the other end of the table and they're bugging. I know y'all are laughing at me,
Oh, no.
Don't pretend to be my friends, but you don't want to be my, it just kind of bleeds into everything. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, you've seen the way I handle pity party.
It's true.
Like if Paul gets a little pouty face, I like call it out immediately and I'm like, quit pouting. Or like there was like one time that like you got pouty at something and I think I told you to quit pouting or something.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Rude. I had a real reason.
You did,
I was mad at you. You had insulted me. I think you even said something bad about my mom. So,
what?
Of course, I would throw a pity party at you.
Nobody said anything bad about your mom.
I know what you said, Darcy. I saw you laughing.
Nobody's going to talk trash on Diana.
That's true.
Diane?
Shout outs to
Diana.
Mom. Okay, you can stop now. She gave you money.
And you forgot her name. One time. I said Diana, right?
That's right.
Okay.
I agreed and you had to keep saying
I
it.
I second guessed myself.
Yeah.
I started feeling sorry for myself.
There you go. And you won't get any pity from me. All right. Next one on the list here. See, we're already halfway through the episode almost. Isn't that cool? We did it. Mummy's boy. It said mummy, but it's mommy's boy. I don't understand this one because in theory, if you set it up right, the girl you pursue can be your mommy. No, I'm just I'm just kidding. No. Okay, I don't get this one because like, why wouldn't you want to be independent? Why wouldn't you want to move out of your parents, build your own life, do what you want to do? Part of being a man is moving out of your parents' house. I'm not even talking from a biblical standpoint. I'm talking about get out of their house and go live your life. You know? But some people live with their mom in their 40s. I'm not talking about like you're fresh off a divorce and you needed time to get back on your feet.
I don't think this is necessarily talking about just people that live with their parents, though.
No, for sure.
Right.
Let's see here.
Okay.
Can't do much without his mom, and she's involved in everything.
Yeah.
Overbearing mothers and sisters who are stupid.
Very big no. Very big no. No way.
I don't usually let my parents... let's see. I ask for advice.
Right.
And I'll take it if it works, I think, and I think it's good advice. And I listen, but that doesn't mean like their decision or their stance is the route I'm going to take.
Right.
I need to be able for me pick what's best for me.
Well, we've even done a couple episodes with this problem in the Christian marriage thing where they're like talking about the overbearing mothers and everything, and then people are coming in being hard on them, being like, oh, so you don't want him to love his parents? Yeah. It's like, no, like that's not what
Honor
she's
your
saying.
father and mother, for this is right.
Right.
You know, and this is the first commandment with a promise. Yeah.
Oh, don't ever do that again in front of me. That was disgusting. You did the eye roll back with it. That was foul.
There's no video in this podcast. No one saw that but you.
That's the worst part. I was the one that I had to go through this on my own, by myself. How am I supposed to cope with this if other people can't come alongside me and say they've been through the same thing?
You're not alone. I'm here.
You're the problem.
I'm not even halfway through the list, man. Yeah, I don't know. I don't come into this that much. I don't see it where people are mamas, boys, or dad, whatever, all of it. I don't see that. I've seen over possessive parents though, where they're like, literally, this is ridiculous because I was mid through my 20s and this girl was over 18 and mom and dad were like, you can't date him, you're not ready. And I was like, I'm pretty sure you're an adult and I'm pretty sure I'm very stable. I don't know. I just didn't get it. And they're like, she's not old enough. And I was like, what the heck, So it just didn't make sense to me. That's a lesser example. Some people take it to the extreme where mom's still cooking for them, mom's still cleaning for them. I have seen that.
That was one of my exes.
And that annoys me.
Yeah.
And I'm not even like trying to date someone like that.
I was like working doubles and everything. And he just like lived at his mom's house, played video games all day, took my car to go pick up his other woman.
That's messed up.
Yeah. While I was at work.
Not to mention, like, I have not witnessed this, but I've heard it where it's like they ask their parents for money to go on the date. And they're like, an adult. And I'm like, come on, dude. That just doesn't make sense to me. My first girlfriend, I'll admit, I was short on cash. So I mowed my parents' lawn and they paid me. They have a big lawn. And I took care of it. And then I got paid. I didn't just get a handout. Okay?
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't get that. Still relying on your parents so much for everything.
I think it depends what age you are, too. If you're like 19, 20, I understand it.
Sure, I guess.
But
I was paying my own bills at 18. I was paying for college out of pocket. But Darci said it's okay, so I guess it's okay. She would still go out with you. You hear that, kids? 18 to 20. She'll still go out with you even if your parents are paying for everything. Okay. If you're a turd or what's the word I'm thinking of? Oh, yeah, head, then she'll still go out with you. So it's all good. All right? So did we discuss that one properly, Darci, do you think?
yeah, I think so. I mean, there's not that much to really add into it. Like,
that was pretty cut and dry, too.
Right. You always want, especially if you're married and you're a mama's boy.
Yeah.
Like, that's where it really gets overbearing because then you're listening to your mom over your wife. Like, you're not appropriately.
That's even worse.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah, I don't like that at all, dude. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, blaming others for your problems. We were just talking about this today.
Yeah.
So, what problems do you think they're talking about? Personality? Financial?
I find most of the time that people that blame others for their problems are the problems that they caused for themselves.
Mm-hmm. So, who are they blaming?
Gosh, anyone. So, if they're the problem, let's do an extreme example.
Yeah, please.
Let's say they went and cheated on you.
Sure.
Obviously that's their problem, but then it's like, oh, well, you didn't hold my hand the other day and you've just been giving me the cold shoulder. And you're like, no, like I just had a 16-hour shift. I just wanted to fall asleep. And they're like, you haven't been paying attention to me the same way. It's like you went out and did this on your own accord and you're blaming others.
Yeah.
That's, of course, an extreme example. You're going to have a lot more smaller things like, I don't know. Anything specific is going to be people we currently know.
Yeah.
If I try to bring an example up.
Right.
That I'm not trying to.
But they don't listen, so it's okay. I mean, here's the thing. If they're blaming others, they don't know they're the problem. So any problem we list, the guy that we're talking about or girl is going to be like, oh, yeah, those guys suck. And they're actually the exact people we're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm no doctor here. I'm no therapist, but those are what we call self-centered, narcissistic. But I know therapists don't like it when non-experts throw around those words. But self-centered. So it's okay, Darci. You can give a more current example. Because the people we're talking about, odds are they don't know we're talking about them.
That's fair.
Because they're not the problem. They blame others. Okay. I'm trying to think. My most recent roommate, I got mad at him because he trashed the house. Like when he moved in, his stuff was everywhere and I hated it and it drove me insane. Right? Just that on its own. That was bad hygiene right there where everything's just disgusting, right? And then I said, look, like I got mad and I yelled at him and I told him, bro, how hard is it to pick up after yourself? Then he started blaming me. He said, well, a good Christian would see a need and go ahead and meet it for them. And I'm like, you know what I mean?
Right.
But that's just ridiculous. And of course, I wasn't dating this person, but I was like, dude, like you're blaming me for your mistake. You know what I mean? It can be small things too, where they won't take responsibility for something as simple as throwing away their plate when they're done. You know what I mean? And the next thing you know, their dog ate off of it and knocked it on the floor and stained the rug, you know? Blaming others. They won't even take responsibility for the smallest thing. You know what I'm saying?
Well, like we were talking about earlier, a lot of the times it's to use as a distraction from their own problems. Because if they're able to point the finger at other people, like, they don't have to pay attention to what they did themselves.
Yeah.
They can sit there and excuse their behavior and be like, well, if they didn't do this and they didn't do that, then I wouldn't have done this. So I'm not the bad person. These are just, you know, the reactions to other people being a bad person. So I'm not the bad one here.
Yeah.
And unless you're able to take accountability for your actions and look at what, you know, may have caused this person to act like that, what, you know, all of those things, like, be empathetic and think of other people's situation as well. Like, you're not going to be able to change that.
Yeah.
You know, like, I've had to do a lot of self-examination on some of my problems and the ways I react to things. And like we were talking about earlier, like I gave the example when Paul was saying the no words in arguments of like, chill out, go take a nap, all of the, you know, the no-nos.
I can understand chill out, slipping out.
Yeah.
Okay. But go take a nap. No, go. I would basically, like, someone hand me a pen. I need to sign my death certificate. You know what I mean?
Poor Yeehaw. I was sitting there when he said that, and I turned around, red-faced.
Careful, he listens.
Hey, I'm being empathetic to him, okay?
I know he listens to the show.
He was sitting there on the couch when Paul said it, and I was, like, in the middle of, like, frantically cleaning, because I was dealing with so many different mental health issues at this time, different stuff with therapy. And so, like, there would be, like, times I was frustrated because people weren't taking my circumstances into account on, like, why I was acting that way. I understood the way I was acting wasn't okay.
Yeah.
But I was also frustrated with the fact that nobody, like, empathized with me.
Yeah.
And so I'm, like, frantically cleaning this, what was a clean kitchen all over again because it was constantly getting messed up. And it's hard enough for me to pick up after myself, much less if it starts getting piled up by the 5 people that were here, you know, which is going to happen. But at the time, like, that was just how I, like, distracted myself from what was going on in my life. It was like, let me be OCD and pay attention to this dirty grout instead of what's going on in my head, and I'll feel better. But then the grout was always dirty because everybody was like, you know. And so Paul's sitting there, I'm, like, freaking out. I'm, like, putting the silverware into the dishwasher, talking about how hard it is to just open a freaking dishwasher. And that's when he told me to go take a nap. And I turned around. I'm pretty sure my face was red immediately. And Yeehaw sitting there going, oh, he was like, oh, God. And I was like, woo, I was steaming, like, oh, my gosh. But, you know, like, even instances like that, like, I call you and I'm like, hey, you know, this was said to me. I reacted in a very inappropriate way, but I also don't feel invalid in the way I reacted because of this being said. And so other people, they're not even going to pay attention to the way they reacted. If you're going to blame other people, the only thing you're going to hear is, he told me to take a nap, so I exploded, rightfully so.
Yeah.
And there's no, like, looking in to say, okay, what part of me do I need to fix in this, regardless of me being valid in my emotion towards this. Yeah,
it's definitely a sign of immaturity, for sure. Because, like, if you're blaming others, like, forget dating. Like, throw that out the window. Like, you need, there's a lot that hinders you from being friends, from being a good roommate, from being a good family member. Like, you got a lot more to worry about than just like, oh, am I gonna have a girl or am I gonna have a guy?
Right.
You know what I mean? There's so many layers to that, and how much it actually messes with your real life. So yeah, and that actually kind of ties into the next one: lack of discipline.
Okay? What number are we on?
They're not numbered, actually.
Oh,
so we're gonna go until we run out of space.
Okay.
Lack of discipline. So the examples it gives: discipline, direction, motivation, work ethic. Still behaving or being childlike habits as an adult. Can't handle finances, can't live independently. Won't, doesn't know how to cook, clean, do laundry, basic maintenance, still expects or needs parents' help. So, I mean, maybe they had to expand the list to get to 13, but that kind of also tie into mommy's boy. But think about when mom and dad are gone and you don't know how to do anything because your parents did it all. And so You've had a few roommates here where that's been an issue, right? Pizza boxes everywhere. Sometimes I'm guilty of it. I don't do it on purpose, but like I'll drink my coffee and then I'll put the... What was that?
I had to clear my throat.
Oh, you aren't coming at me here.
No.
No, sometimes I'll finish drinking coffee and I'll put the mug down and I'll just forget. But I do try to pick up after myself. I get annoyed when roommates are helpless. I know a couple guys that were just so... I'm just going to use the word worthless, useless. Like, you could not get them to do anything because they always were just like, can you help me? I hate it when someone's asking for money all the time. That drives me crazy. So I remember this is going to be the same guy. It's nobody who listens, nobody you know. It's going to be like a guy I just knew way back in college. 23 years old. I think I was 20, so I couldn't comprehend being 23. So I was like, old man. Right? But anytime he wanted us to buy something, he would be like, hey, can one of y'all like cover me? You know, like I got so sick of hearing that. Can someone cover me? He'd go to a restaurant, order food, and then ask at the end, can someone cover me?
At the end? Not even before?
Nope.
He wouldn't be like, I can't afford it, but I really want to go. Would somebody mind?
And then whenever it's like, hey guys, y'all want to go out? He didn't have a car, right? So he would ride with one of us, and then we'd be like, hey, do you mind if who is everyone coming out to eat after? And be like, unless one of y'all can cover me, otherwise can y'all take me home? You know, and just a damper on everybody's like, and we all got sick of that. I lived with him at one point, and there was one time he broke my back scratcher because he took it from my room and then left it like on the couch, like in between the cushions, so I didn't see it. And it was a really expensive one, so I just plopped on the couch and it snapped. He didn't have a car, so he'd ask for lifts to the grocery store all the time. And then, let's see. I found out he was using all our my toilet paper, like mine that I bought in bulk, and I'd put it in a cabinet. And then one time I saw him, I was watching him, he went into my room. I was like, what the heck are you doing? He went to my room, and then he came back out with 4 rolls of toilet paper. I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, what? And I was like, you didn't even ask? Is that where my toilet paper's going? And he's like, well, do you mind if I borrow some toilet paper? I was like, no, Kay. Oh, sorry. No, put it back. And he's like, oh, sorry. And then, like, you know, I would say to his credit, this would really give him too much credit. He was worthless, dude, useless. You could not, so pathetic. One time he bought me like a pack of 4, you know, to say sorry. I was like, dude, like, I mean, he had to have stolen like 50 rolls from me, you know, like that, you know, thanks. And it was like the 1-ply toilet paper too, not even the good stuff. So
it's like the stuff from the dollar store.
Yes, dude, this dude was worthless, you know. And then to pay rent, he would rely on the college refund. That, like, you know, I guess he'd overpay or take out too many loans to where he would overpay and kick him back a refund. So he would rely on that for rent. Now, I'll give him credit. He budgeted it. He didn't go out and buy stuff and then, like, you know, oh, I can't pay for tuition this semester. Like, he somehow rationed out that refund to where he paid rent on time. So I'll give him credit there. There were a couple times that we couldn't pay rent. So I don't know. I guess he just ran out, and then he would tell me like the day before. He wouldn't tell me that, you know, a week in advance or something. He would tell me that like a day before.
That's always my like biggest problem is someone like telling me last minute or just not saying anything at all. Yeah. I'm like, we could just, you know, we could just give a heads up so that I'm prepared, you know. Yeah,
and let's see. Oh, there was one time where he was trying to put his stuff in the freezer, and the freezer was out of room. So instead of reorganizing, because it wasn't like he couldn't just it just needed to be reorganized and then he could close it. So I watched him. He was like banging the freezer door. I'm just gonna make the sound. He's banging the freezer door back and forth, and he's like, can someone help me? Can someone just like help me fix this? The door won't close. And then we're playing our games, we're really into it, and he's just like constantly just like knocking the freezer door against the freezer. And then I was like, hey, just fix it. Like, just rearrange everything. I said his name again.
I noticed that.
Yeah. I was like, bro, because now I'm reliving the memories here. And so it's just like, dude, just fix it. Right. And then he's like, well, I tried, but can't someone just come and fix it? And then I was like, oh my gosh, so-and-so. And then I got up and then I just did I rearranged like 5 things and then I closed it. I was like, was that so hard? You know? And then one time I came home and he's like, our other roommate showing him how to like make taco meat to where you just cook it and then you put the seasoning pack on top. And I was like, you're asking him how to... You asked him to teach you how to season taco meat, and he's like, "Well, when you say it that way, it makes me sound stupid." And I was like,
"So I'm not gonna lie, I was one of those helpless people."
No way.
Yeah,
because I wouldn't have guessed that because you are definitely not like that now.
Right. Well, I was very purposeful to not be, and honestly, I mean, it wasn't my fault necessarily. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and so she did everything. Mm-hmm. Everything every day. And then of course I had my program I went to and stuff like that. And whenever I got into the program, they're like, okay, go mop the kitchen floor. And so I was like, okay. And so I just like poured a bunch of random stuff in the mop bucket. And I drenched the mop and I immediately just slopped it onto the floor without like trying to wring it out because like, I don't know if you watch cartoons, you see the puddle of water that they're pushing back and forth. And so I was like, yeah, this is how you mop.
Oh, no.
And they were looking at me like I was crazy. And I was like, what? And so they're having to show me how to wring it out. And then I go to sweep. I did the same thing like on the cartoons where you just brush it back and forth up into the air. And so they're like, what is wrong with you? And they had to show me all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then when I moved into my first apartment, I didn't know you had to add soap to the dishwasher to the washer.
No way.
And then finally I figured out you had to add soap. Well, fast forward like a year later, me and Paul are living together, right? And so I go to put soap into the washer and he was like, what is this? And I was like, oh, it's the soap. And he was like, no, this is fabric softener. And I was like, is that not what you use to wash your clothes? He was like, no. Have you never used soap on your clothes? Like, you have to use detergent.
Oh, my gosh.
Do you have fabric softener instead of detergent? And
no,
you look, oh, okay.
I'm just watching you like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Dude? So, like, you were well married before you realized you were doing laundry wrong?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And, like, I didn't know how to, like, cook anything at all.
Yeah.
And part of that was because I worked in a restaurant, and so I never had to know how to cook because I just worked every day there, ate there. When I was off, it was McDonald's or what have you.
I was going to say, you're the opposite of that now. So
yeah,
like
very much so.
You know how to clean.
Yeah.
You know how to sweep. Okay, you know how to mop. And you know how to cook.
Yeah.
And then if you don't know how to cook something, you'll cook it. So I don't know. Like, you're such the opposite. It's hard to imagine you being that way. But I don't know. I mean, you learned, and you're still young. I mean, when I met you, dang, you're what, 21?
Yeah.
So like you learned pretty early on. So you're better off than Homeboy. Before I say his name again, you're better off than Homeboy because I promise you, he's still the same way. I remember when. So I brought up the thing he was living off the refund because we told him to get a job, start saving now, get a job, and he wouldn't listen. And then finally, when he graduated, he finally got a job at Subway, right? And then he picked a Subway all the way across town he was never going to get to. And I was like, how are you going to get to work?
Dude, when we first got married and had that person living with us, she didn't have a car. So she was relying on us to take her. And you remember where our apartment was located. It was so close to so many things.
I picked her up from work too once.
Yeah. So you know how far her job was.
Yes, it wasn't close.
Yeah. So there was like walking distance, like unlimited resources of things that were like starting at 13, 14, 15 bucks an hour. She chose this job, which was a minimum wage job, 30 minutes from our apartment to go to.
Yeah.
And we were like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like,
you know what though? She knew what she was doing because we all catered to her.
Yeah.
You know? So was she the dumb one or were we? You know what I mean? So
I don't know. At the end of the day, she still had small checks.
It's just because she was pretty. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it. But, you know, whatever. And you were trying to help her get off the streets. So, you know, of course we're going to help her. She needs a ride to work. Sure. Make whatever minimum wage is now. Right. Is it $8 or is it still $7.25?
It's still $7.25. I think the place she was working was $10, but that's pretty much minimum wage now.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty much nothing. Even though like minimum wage is still $7, most companies now agree like, okay, we can't keep people, so we had to give people a raise. Right. You know what I mean?
If you told me you have a $10 an hour job, I'm like, okay, so minimum wage.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, especially with what inflation is. I don't know how you're gonna live off of that. But anyway, now. Why is that a turnoff, Darci? lack of discipline.
I don't want to take care of it. Like, I want to be your wife. I want to be your support. I want to be first of all, I want to be the one taken care of as the wife. Like, I don't want to have to provide for you and teach you everything and all of that. Like, I want that to be able to be provide for me.
Yeah.
And not that I need that or I'm dependent on that, but that's just kind of the natural roles. And then second of all, if you don't know and you're just ignorant to it because of, like, if you had a situation like mine where nobody ever taught me, that's understandable, As simple as things are, if nobody ever tells you the answer, you're not going to know it. If nobody ever taught you 2 + 2 = 4, you would never know. And when one day somebody asks you and you're like, 2?
Yeah.
They're going to look at you like you're dumb as hell, but it's not your fault that you were never told the answer.
Yeah.
So if it's one of those things where you just genuinely don't know and you're trying to learn, that's completely different. But if you're sitting there helplessly, like, I don't know how to do this, do it for me. No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I will show you how to do it a time or two.
Sure.
But you need to learn how to do it. I'm not going to just do things for you.
Right. I agree. Nobody likes to be babied. Okay. I don't know what it is about dating, but women will put up with a guy that needs to be babied. And then when they get to you, the minute you suggest help, can you help me with something? They're like, I can't baby you. And they switch back to trauma.
Well, I think it's easy for women because women have a natural nurturing part of them.
I'm just saying when they get to me, they're so fed up with it that anytime I even ask for help, they're like, I'm not going to baby you.
Yeah.
I'm like, where's this coming from? Well, my ex did that. Okay, that's great for him, but what about us?
Right. Like, I just need you to hold the flashlight.
That's what I'm saying. So, monologuing. Treating women who aren't your therapist like your therapist. Okay. Have you ever talked to anybody who you're like, okay, tell me about, what do you like to do? Well, I was born in 87, and they just tell you their whole backstory like you're an NPC. You know what I mean?
Okay, so starting off, yes. Okay,
Yes.
I see that. Because I was sitting here and I was like, I don't mind if Paul talks to me about all of his problems. In fact, I enjoy that. And
Correct.
I want to know about his whole life and every problem,
Let's talk about first impressions.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean, though?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just making this up. Like,
Right.
I've seen this. You know? Trying to think of a really solid example because I've seen this quite a bit. I'm having trouble narrowing down how a conversation with that type of person, like, starts, if that makes sense.
Are you trying to think of an example as in the things I used to do when I first met people and I was like, hi, my name's Darci. I used to be a drug addict.
No. No, there are people that legit just give you too much information. And not even to where you're like super grossed out, but like just like, I didn't ask for all this, dude. I just asked you, what do you like to do? And they're like, well, depends on what my dad would do in between beatings. You know what I mean?
I called my dad stepdad, and not because we weren't related, but he used to bash my head in with his foot. How are you?
Step on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think because it's not always that serious. It's not always like
Right.
they just got to drop their trauma on you. But like, I don't know. Like, do you ever? I know for sure there are times where it feels like it's one sided, where you don't get a word in and someone just will not shut up. Mm-hmm. I know someone like that for sure. Which you know who I'm talking about. But
That's so annoying. Oh my gosh.
right, but like monologuing. Would you say? Why do you think the root of that is monologuing? Did they just not learn manners, or are they self-centered? Like, what is it? Do you think you can narrow down why that is? Are they just long-winded?
I mean, it could be a bunch of different things. It could be kind of like an anxiety spew. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the first thing that comes to my mind. That, at least if I'm trying to give the benefit of the doubt, I boil it down to like an anxiety spew. Like, you know, they're just uncomfortable. They don't know how to interact. They're socially awkward. Like they're just like, let me try this out one more time to see if it was just because it was the first date or if this is just genuinely how they are. Mm-hmm. But that's that people like that I generally would give like a time 2. Mm-hmm. And if it goes into time 2, that's when I'm like, okay, no.
Right.
I wouldn't say it's an immediate thing where I'm like, ooh, I'm never talking to them again, depending on, I guess, how intense they're doing it.
Right.
I don't know.
I like a girl that talks too much. Like, that's a thing I very much enjoy when they won't shut up. Like, I love that. But there's a difference between when they're talking at me and it's only about them. They don't want to hear anything I do. There's a girl at work that, I don't know, anytime I sit down and talk with her, and it's just like, it's not like she's bad at telling stories, but it's just like, it does go on too long. And I'm like, man, I really just don't care like anymore. It started off kind of interesting. Like, say they got in a car wreck and they're like, yeah, so this boat fell out of the tractor, and then just swerved down the road. And then I was like, cool, like, let's, I want to hear the story, but then there's just too many details I didn't care about. And it's definitely a big, like, monologue where it takes them forever to get to the point. That can be a turnoff when there's unnecessary details. But I don't know, when a guy does it, it's even less important because women don't generally, unless, correct me if I'm wrong, like, unless they're just fully enamored by the guy where they're hung up on every word he says. For the most part, women like to talk, do most of the talking in a conversation. But if it's not a back and forth, I think it gets pretty, boring, one-sided.
Right. Especially for me, because I'm so ADHD. I'll zone out so quick, and I'll just autopilot.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That is part 1 on the 13 things you do that repel women. Backing up a bit, I want to celebrate. We just reached now it could change by the time this episode airs because it'll be a few weeks out, but I want to do a shout out. As of the time of this recording, we hit 74 subscribers. We got, I hit record and then I checked my phone.
Is there a little...
No, that's not it either. That's better. Okay, no. You left the other button on.
I'm trying to... That one, no. That one! I found it.
You literally hit every button except the right one.
Wait, hold on. I'm still on. Which one is that? Is that better?
All right, stop. Okay. Please, no more.
All right, one more time. 74 viewers.
74 subscribers, but okay. You said viewers. You can stop now. Stop hitting buttons. You're so bad at this. Okay.
Damn it. I thought that was the clapping one. It's that one, isn't it? Yeah.
Darcy's literally trying to run out the clock. Because we're not quite out of time, but we're also...
No, I wanted to do the...
Quite done with the conversation. Appreciate you being a good co-host in this for us, Darcy. So.
I really did press every button before it was the right one.
That's right. So, all right. At the risk of this going on too long, this is already going to be tough to edit, but there's no reason to make it tough.
Oh, whatever. It's not going to be tough.
Okay. So, yeah, this is a girl that does nothing except lends a personality to the show. Appreciate that. All right, guys. I'm going to go ahead and call it here. I'll see you next week. We're about to shoot the next one. Part 2. We covered the first 8 reasons why you're a woman repellent. It's like you sprayed on the anti-woman spray, and now you reek. Okay, that fits into bad hygiene. All right. So join us next week as we do this again, and we talk about the other reasons why women don't like to talk to you. All right. See y'all next time. Thanks for joining us. Sorry for wasting your time for about an hour.
See you guys.
Yeah, we'll get back to it. Bye.